Well, hello again. Pastor Ray Barnett here. Glad you could be with me on another broadcast of God's answers for anxiety and depression. As always, I wish you a good afternoon, a good morning, or a good evening, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast. Today is Monday, July 26th, and it's really a beautiful day here in upstate New York. I'm sitting in a park. Some of you who have been with me from the beginning will recall we were here last year, back during the shutdown when there wasn't too many places to go. And I mention that because right to my left is a ball field, but it's a very nice ball field. It's not professional, but the collegiate league plays here. Many of these young people go to the major leagues, quite a few, and it just provides a nice summer, I want to say distraction, should be attraction. Come down and watch these young guys play baseball. It's a nice thing here in Amsterdam, New York. Hey, while I'm thinking about it, I want to give a shout out to George Bruno, who last night was doing a live feed, which he does periodically from time to time. Or maybe he's even doing it now on a weekly basis. And I had some lag time, so I just thought I would sign on and see what was happening. And when he saw me there, he gave me a nice shout out, and primarily was telling his followers about him being impressed with my physical strength. And he asked me some questions about it, and I had typed in that or responded that I've hit the 99.99 or 100%, which I guess it's pretty much the same thing statistically, for physical strength for my age and for my weight. And so that was the topic that he chose to ask me about when I was on the live stream with him. But I would like to acknowledge him, George, and give him my own little shout out here, and to thank him for his kindness towards me. You see, I can say we met a long time ago when George was just starting out his YouTube channel and only had, small following. Now he has a very large following, and we connected and we spoke on the phone and became friends. And I found George because he is a master beard smith, and like myself, he has a beard, a white beard rather, and he was growing it out into a yeared at the time when we hooked up. I was looking for just pointers, tips on how to trim and how to keep a white beard looking white. And you may think, well, what's so unusual about keeping a white beard white? Well, there's some tricks to it. You don't want it to look sloppy and faded and all that. Anyway, George is a good guy, and he's got a good broadcast. I'd like to once again thank him for his tutelage. I like to think of it that if people like the way my beard is trimmed up and you can't really see so much of it, I learned all that from George. If you don't like the way my beard has come out, then I'm to blame for that. But anyway, George is a good guy, and I want to thank him again for the shout out last night. Well, I was speaking Friday, Saturday on the question of to vaccinate or not to vaccinate, that's the question. And I gave you my opinion. I think it's a personal matter, and I think that that's something that you should be deciding with your physicians, and then come to your own conclusion. That's how I've been advising people, and I think it's good advice. But however, we're still facing the uncertainty of whether we're going to be mandated. Well, a couple of things. Whether we're going to be mandated to go back to wearing masks again with this small rise in COVID cases. Here in New York, it's been minimal. And will we go back to being mandated to wear a mask? Will we be mandated to receive a vaccine? And I was just reading in today's news, perhaps you already know, that the Veterans Affairs is going to be mandating, if I read it right, they're going to be mandating that anyone that comes, any veteran that comes to them for health care is going to have to be vaccinated. So there we go. I shared with you on the broadcast that my purpose in talking about these topics, and there'll be other ones too, what's in the news, what's going on in the world, is, in my opinion, it's necessary in order to connect you to a larger picture of your personal anxiety and your personal battles with depression or whatever mental health issue you may be having, to focus in on only your own little world is a disservice. I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't connect you to a larger picture, because these things affect us. For example, let's say you're dealing with agoraphobia, fear of the marketplace, fear of just being around people. All right. Well, obviously people have that. You may be one of them. But if the world appears to you, or we may say indeed is, getting more chaotic and worse and violent and whatever, well, that's not going to help your agoraphobia, is it? No. It's going to aggravate it. It's going to make it, the temptation to fear and the temptation to be depressed will definitely get worse. You know, and I said this before, and I want to say it again. People who have, let me jump over into bona fide mental health disorders. We could start with schizophrenia, go over to bipolar and all of these various diagnoses. I have found are usually intelligent people. I don't mean on a genius level, but I just mean intelligent. And many are very intelligent. Well, there's something to be said about that. But because of that, then we work our way down here to the panic attacks and to something which I know you don't consider it minor, but trust me, compared to what some people are dealing with in mental health disorders, the comparison between a panic attack, I know people who have had like 1, 2. I know people who have had thousands, and we're still not into the categories of some severe mental health disorders. In any case, I have discovered that the great majority, I'm almost tempted to say all, but the great majority of these of people like yourself are very intelligent. This means that if we're not dealing with the big picture, as I've been sharing that with you, if we're not dealing with the big picture, then we're not addressing the subject en toto. In other words, in its entirety, because you are intelligent, because you read the news. I remember reading the story, for instance, I remember reading the story of a woman who, when she would read the newspaper, let's say of a tragic accident, she would feel somehow she was responsible. Now that's of course a rather protracted mental illness, and and she was able to rationalize that. To think that way is ridiculous, but that was the thought that struck her mind. And that being said, it just shows you that some of these people, I say some of these people, I'm telling you the majority of people that have mental health, especially mental health diagnosis especially, and people with panic and depression are ordinarily intelligent people. All right, so we live in a world where, and especially as Americans, we don't want to be coerced into a situation where we're being mandated with a vaccine. I am quite certain that the great majority of Americans do not want to go back to wearing masks, having their places of business closed down, gyms closed down, churches closed down. And I bring all of this up to say that what we're facing, all of us here, is uncertainty. We don't know. Now, as a very minor point, I just returned from the dentist. Not my favorite place to go on a beautiful day. It's not my place to go, even if it was the middle of a hurricane. I'm just not my favorite place to go. And one of my teeth were hurting, and I have a very minor infection, not a big deal, but for me, some of these things are just distractions, and I find them frustrating because my dentist is not close. He was here in town, then he moved away, and I decided to stay with him. So it's a good 40 minutes drive one direction, 40 minutes back, and I'm thinking of what I want to get accomplished today, and it's more frustrating to me than anything else. It's more frustrating than frightening. It's more frustrating. And then a verse came to me, which I'll say many, but I know at least some of you know this verse. Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for the good of them that, let me say it again, for we know that all things work together for the good of them that are called of God. We know that all things work together, and I've always been taken back by the initial phrasing of Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for the good of them that are called according to his purpose, the called of God according to his purpose. I've always been taken back by the initial phrasing of that verse, and we know. It may be a small consolation to you to say, hey, God's working a plan out. But I tell you what, don't make it a small consolation. It is a great consolation, and one that can assuage your fears, mitigate your anxieties and your depressions and so on in a great way. If you really believe and make a decision to believe that regardless of what you see, hear, smell, taste, and so on, whatever it is, from the most minor thing of having to make an inconvenient trip to wind up with a prescription for antibiotic, for me, for little infection, to world disasters. And we know that all things work together for the good, them that are called of God, according to his purpose. His purpose. See, God is working out his purpose in the earth. And we don't know all the details. Now, if you're biblically literate, and most Americans are not, including ones that go to churches, including ones that go to the good churches, they don't know much about the Bible, and that's because their preachers aren't real preachers. They're not teaching the Bible. But if you're biblically literate, then you know that God is working out a plan in the world. It doesn't have to be to your liking or to my liking. What we need to do, what you need to do in order to have peace is to believe it. And to say, as much as this is frustrating, as much as this is frightening, as much as this is a distraction, and so on and so forth, I know that God is working out His plan in the earth, and if you trust in Him, then you can say, I know that God is working out His plan in my life. This, for me, is one of the stabilizing principles that I live by and that I put into my mind when things aren't going my way. And rarely they do go my way. I don't know about you. My days rarely go the way I plan them or the way I would like them to go. Such is life. But you see, once again, let me remind you the purpose of my broadcast. The purpose of my broadcast, here we are again by this little creek, this little stream, as we were last year. I try to pick a surrounding that's conducive to peace here in God's nature. So that when you watch these broadcasts, you can have just a moment, 20 minutes or so, of learning something, as well as just to relax. I had one person who subscribes and watches the broadcasts that found my voice, here's a big word for you, soporific. Soporific means it induces sleep. Well, I got to tell you the truth. I'm not going to make it in the Fortune 500 magazines. Of course, you got to be, I told you the other day, you got to be a mover and a shaker, and you got to be, always stirring things up. Well, that doesn't interest me. Never did. If it did, I would have pursued it. Never did. Doesn't now. I'm a more reflective, contemplative individual. Love to think. I really do. I really do love to think. And so, I'm trying to help you with the camera here. The places that I pick. What you see through the camera, and what am I going to say? I wanted to say rhythmical, but my voice is not so much rhythmical as it's just I try to speak in a way that's not too terribly inducing a flow of adrenaline, trying to get you less addicted to your adrenaline, and to finally have peace. Peace of mind, peace in your body. So here it is. Everything in your life, if you trust Christ, that's the key. If you truly trust Christ, is working out, whether you can see it or not, understand it or not. I know that I don't, so I'm assuming that you can't either. Everything. How exactly this is working for good, but it is. Whether we're wearing masks or we're not wearing masks, or we're being told whatever we're being told, whatever's going on, it's working for good on a much higher level than we can comprehend, other than the bits and pieces that we get in the Bible and the general concepts. So I want to leave you once again today with a prayer that God will help you to just have His peace. Jesus said, "Peace I leave you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world gives it, give I unto you." Let me pray for you. So Father, I just thank you, and I ask you today to bless my friends with peace, that no matter what they're facing or what we're all facing in this world, we can know all things are working together for good to those that love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. Touch them all, I pray, in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Okay, so please, would you give me a thumbs up? If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and make sure you hit the notification button so you know when these videos are uploaded. All right, thanks so much for being with me. And oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, so Saturday, I got finished with the broadcast. I was right at this point, and I have to reach, I don't have any clickers, so I have to reach forth here to pause and stop the video. I thought I hit the pause, and I never did. So when I removed the camera, you flip up and see the sun and on the side of my beard, and it ran for about a minute. Well, when I saw it, I said to myself, hey, I ought to take this whole tape away. But I said to myself, nah, it's just good for my exercising humility that we make mistakes. But today I'll try to shut this thing off when I'm done. All right, God bless you. See you tomorrow.